Here we go. Alright. So, I'm Michael Cullen, and I'll be talking to you today about the mid-Permian mass extinction, also known as the Guadeloupian mass extinction because it took place in the Guadeloupian epoch. So, you've probably all heard of the end Permian mass extinction, the Great Dying, Big Death, whatever you want to call it. But you probably haven't heard of the mid-Permian mass extinction, because it's a lot less famous. However, the mid-Permian mass extinction had a major impact on the Permian ecosystem, and it acts as a prelude to the Great Dying. So, the Guadeloupian period before the extinction had many fascinating creatures, but I've chosen to focus on two of the groups that were most affected by this extinction, just for the sake of time. We have the Dinocephalians, who were a group of large-bodied therapsids. Generally took up the large herbivore and predator niches. And you have the trilobites, which are pretty famous. They existed throughout the Paleozoic, but they were already on the decline by the time we get to Permian. The end Devonian mass extinction had reduced their diversity greatly, so there was only this one order, Croatids, left. So, speaking of the trilobites, we have some photos of different trilobites. These ones are enrolled, so you can see that they roll themselves up for defense, and so that way predators can't get at them. And these are some of the guys of the Croatids. A lot of the earlier trilobites had these really weird spines and things coming off of them. There were some really crazy shapes and forms, but by the time we get to the Permian, we only have these kind of, I guess we'd call them like standard trilobites that don't really deviate from that sort of free-lobed body plan much. And then, of course, we have our Dinocephalians. So we've got a bunch of different groups of Dinocephalians. So we've got like these large herbivores, the Mozchops, our green guy here, and they were herbivores. But yeah, they're probably the most famous of the Dinocephalians just because of their size. And then we have these guys who are more predatory. They're the oh, not supposed to do that. They're the I can't remember. I can't remember the name of these guys, but Estemnosuchus, I think. Yeah, that's them. Yeah, they have these really weird bony crests and stuff that go on, and it's generally believed they're like the predators. We've also got some more gracile ones that were around, but they're less common than these big lumbering predators and herbivores. So then of course an extinction happens. But what causes an extinction really? Well, an extinction is caused by climatic change, and this climatic change can occur because of and come in a number of different forms. So it could be acidification of the oceans or rise of sea levels. It could be something really obvious like a massive meteorite impact. It could be something like plate tectonics, where the continents are forming and breaking apart, and they just cause massive destruction. It could be massive volcanic eruptions. It could be more things. It could be multiples of these combined. So, yeah. And then, but what caused the mid-Permian extinction specifically? At the end of the Guadeloupian epoch, we find in a large igneous province, like our Friends of the Volcanoes camp we're talking about earlier. This one specifically is the Shan igneous province in China. These correlate exactly with the end of the Guadeloupian period, and as this table shows, right at the time of those eruptions, at the end of the Guadeloupian period, we see the generic diversity take a massive downturn. The Dinocephalians here in that green line just disappear entirely, as well as several other groups. And here is a map of the Shan igneous province today in China, which it's kind of hard to tell on this map, but China is a very large country, so this takes up a very large amount of space, so it was a pretty massive eruption instead. So it obviously would have had a lot of climatic effects on the mid-Permian world, probably massive winters, the immediate destruction of the area around it, climatic changes, sea level rise, acidification of the oceans, all the lovely stuff that you get in the Great Dying later on, but on a bit of a smaller scale. And this is the smaller scale version, which is something to keep in mind. So, what survives the Guadeloupian and what happens afterwards? So, our big dinocephalians are gone. They couldn't make it through. There's a lot of size. You see in extinctions, there's oftentimes a lot of bias towards size. So usually the larger things don't make it, and smaller things will. The trilobites, a few of them might scrape through, but basically, if there was any chance that the parotids were going to be a major group in the Permian oceans, it dies here. There's like a few genera left that are pretty much gone. But that's not like the end of life, you know. Things recover, things adapt. So in those large predator niches, another group of large synapsids takes over. You get the gorgonopsids become the dominant predators. They're more famous in like the late Permian. They have the sort of saber-tooth stuff going on. That's kind of the first time we see that saber-tooth adaptation. And they kind of have reptile-like bodies, but they aren't as they're more on the mammal branch, like their cousins, the dinocephalians, were. And for the trilobites, there's not really anything that I could say would really take their place exactly, but we do see an uptick in like the ammonites and ammonoids that were mentioned earlier, and they start to proliferate. So you could sort of say, in the sense that like they're the new like abundant marine invertebrate that is found basically in all the deposits that they kind of are their successors. So, despite all of the stuff that we do know, we still don't have a full understanding of how the Guadeloupian and mid-Permian extinction impacted some of the ecosystems across Pangea. So we need more research to determine the full impact this extinction had and how it led up and contributed to the Great Dying. And these are my citations and photo credits. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Guess let's give Mike a round of applause. Okay, and who has questions? I know I saw your hand up.
So I realize that it's smaller than the Great Dying. That might be why it's obscured in the annals of history. But why don't we consider this another mass extinction? Is it just because of its proximity to the Great Dying, or did just not enough die?
I believe that it just misses the ratio of like genera that go extinct in the amount of time. I think there's like a rule. It's like 75% or something, and it's like 70% or something like that. It's close, but it just doesn't quite make it. It's kind of an arbitrary distinction, I think, but yeah, you kind of wind up with the. And of course, when you're looking at something that has like 90% of all life goes extinct in a few like decades, tens of millions of years later, this kind of gets overshadowed.
Another reason is that the marine life wasn't hit very hard, and we have really good records in marine deposits, right?
Yeah, I didn't see anything really beyond the trilobites that got hit in the Guadeloupian. Like, most of the other stuff does pretty well, but for some reason those parotids just start dying left and right.
No, it's not a good day to be a trilobite.
Nope.
Anyone else have a question? Xander.
Okay, which do you think was cooler, dinocephalians or no? I personally got to say gorgonopsids, but I'm just wondering what you think.
Oh, damn, that's a tough one. But yeah, I think I'd lean closer to gorgonopsids too. You can't beat a giant mammal lizard hybrid with saber teeth.
Okay. Other questions? Ben.
This is more, just kind of a general question. You elaborated, you talked about this a little bit 2 questions ago, but what are the specific qualifications for something to be considered a mass extinction?
Yep. I am not sure the exact numbers, but I think it is something like a ratio where basically it has to be number of species or genera that go extinct and a specific amount of time. So, like, if you have, like, so you could say that, like, you can't say that, like, 100 million years and stuff goes extinct in that time period. Yeah, there was a mass extinction. But if you have, like, and you can't say that, like, this time period where, like, 2 species go extinct is a mass extinction either. So it has to have the high number of species going extinct and a relatively constrained time period. Of course, this gets more varied, like, the further back in time you go. If you get to, like, the Ordovician and, like, Cambrian time periods, it's basically impossible to tell if it's thousands of years or millions of years. So.
And we have a bias towards looking at things going extinct in the marine record because things that are in the oceans tend to fossilize really well, like they settle to the bottom, they get buried rapidly, the conditions are right. And we tend to be biased against the terrestrial record because there's so many reasons that you don't become a fossil other than a mass extinction. A little bit of bias is there.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Mike. And we gave him another round of applause.
Thank you all for listening.
Okay. Our next speaker is going to be Ada